in the lives of so many others. And I'm here to say that none of us would be here in Utica tonight, with the exception of not having that influence of that one person. And that person is Mrs. Burke. This whole community has turned out, and you've made a difference in all of our lives. So thanks for sharing your son John and your father. Greg Hensel talked a little bit ago about windows of opportunity, and our family's been very, very blessed over the last century to see a lot of different windows of opportunities. And all of them have just been fascinating. If you go back 100 years ago, my grandfather was growing up in a small town called Oak Cliff on the other side of the Trinity River from Dallas, Texas. And his next door neighbor ran an ice house. And when my grandfather was a small boy, he would work every summer in that ice house. Now, he wasn't big enough to lift the blocks of ice, because back then those blocks of ice were 1,500 pounds and larger. But he was big enough to work in the stables. This is before the cars and the trucks came, and all the ice was delivered all over the city by horse and wagon. And what he was big enough to do was take care of the horses. He would feed them and groom them and clean the stables, and that's what he did summer after summer. And finally, he grew up large enough to be able to lift the blocks of ice and put them in the back of wagons. And later, he was able to take those wagons and deliver the ice all over town, so that those people with ice boxes could load them up with the ice and keep their perishables refrigerated. Over time, he grew larger. He finally was the first member of our family to go off to college at the University of Texas. And after graduation, he came on back to Dallas and entered the only business he knew, which was the ice business. In just a few short years, he grew to become president of the Southland Ice Company. One of his senior-most managers, a man named Uncle Johnny Green, came to him in about 1927 and said, "Jody, our customers are beginning to ask if we can sell them some grocery items. I know we can keep the perishables, the milk, the butter, the eggs, in the refrigerated area where we have all the ice. And we can take the bread and some of the canned goods and put them out in the dock. I think this thing might work." Well, my grandfather saw maybe a window of opportunity there. He said, "Here, Johnny, here's some cash, go buy some groceries, some convenience items, and see what happens." And a year later, Uncle Johnny Green came back and said, "Jody, here's your startup capital, and here are your profits." They smiled and looked at each other, and they recognized a real window of opportunity. So they went ahead and rolled out grocery store items, a few convenience items, to all the ice houses they had there in the city of Dallas and Oak Cliff. And that was the very beginning of the convenience store industry. Now, all of his competitors in the ice business thought he was absolutely crazy for putting grocery items in his ice house. And all of his competitors in the grocery industry thought he was absolutely crazy because he was putting grocery items in his ice house. But he stayed on that course. He did what everybody else thought was impossible. And sure enough, over time, this new thing called refrigerators, mechanical refrigerator, came into being. And they're as we have back at home, which show at one time they were touting that ice boxes were healthier for you than refrigerators. It truly was a great product. And they were touting the benefits of real ice versus this mechanical engine trying to cool your food. But over time, those mechanical refrigerators began to put a dent in the other ice company's business. And he was able to buy those companies as they gradually fell out of business. And all the people who were the naysayers suddenly ended up not having their own businesses. After World War II, he had 3 different ice companies in the Dallas area alone. And there were 3 newspapers down there too. So every time he wanted to place an ad, he'd have to go out and buy 9 ads, one for each newspaper, one for each of the ice company names. This was frustrating and expensive, so he went to a local advertising company named Tracy Lott. And he said, "I've got this problem. I have to place an ad, 3 companies, 3 newspapers, 9 ads, it's expensive. We're open from 7 in the morning to 11 at night. Can you help me?" And they said, "Well, we'll think about it. And as soon as we come up with a name, we'll give you a call." Next morning, the phone rang. They said, "This is the easiest assignment we've ever had. Name your little house and ice house out there, 7-Elevens." And that's where the name came from.